Everyone, minasan, konnichiwa. Welcome. We have a very interesting guest today on the Tuxedocast. We have Shonée, and she is going to tell us all about the dance world and adult entertainment. We have some very interesting questions for her. But first of all, we need to welcome this beautiful lady. Shonée, please, can you say hello to our audience and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, hi, I'm Shonée. Nice to meet everyone, I guess. I have been dancing for almost 7 years and in the adult industry as long as well. And I look forward to hearing whatever questions you may have for me.
Awesome, awesome. We're going to keep it quite free, and we're just going to share some of the stories of when you first got into dancing. I think would be a great place to start. So how did you know, or what about the environment you were in that made you decide to give it a try? Were you always just an extroverted person? Were you always got a performer? Were you a natural dancer? I'm quite curious.
I've always wanted to perform. I wanted to be an actress when I was a kid. And yeah, how did I get into dancing? Oh, I did like ballet when I was really, really little. So I had some dancing background, but I also grew up quite sheltered. So when I saw a club that was hiring dancers, I gave them a call. I'm like, oh yeah, hi, I did ballet when I was really little. Is it something you guys? Because I had no idea what any of it was. And they just told me like, hey, come to the club. We'll explain everything to you when you're here. I walked in, I'm like, oh, this is a strip club. And they were like, yeah, so you're gonna dance, you're gonna take your top off on this song and that song. And I I was so overwhelmed that I didn't really register what was happening at first. And the next night I started, but it was something that I thoroughly enjoyed at first. I got into it very quickly, and I've always been reasonably open-minded. I've always had slightly different views on relationships and sexuality. So it was the first breakaway from the really sheltered life I had growing up. And that's where exploring for me started. And I just went for it full in.
That sounds really interesting. And I really am curious about that first experience when you were almost having your trial by fire, where you went in not knowing what it was. It's mysterious. And you maybe have an idea that, okay, it's a cool way to make money. I see people having fun. Did you ever interact with any dancers before that? Or it was your first time going into that environment?
That was my very, very first time. So I've been a waitress while I was in high school. So I was good with customer service to the point, like anybody that's been in customer service knows you deal with some crazy shit. So I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that or not. Sorry.
This is a free
But
space. Please say what you need to say to make that story happen.
so saying shit isn't bad. I can swear a little bit.
Oh, please take it to the extreme if you need to.
Okay. Yeah,
Japanese
you deal
swear
with some
words are
crazy shit.
welcome too.
Okay. Yeah, so you deal with some weird shit in customer service, and I think because of that, I could take anything with a straight face. And I was looking to make a little bit of extra money, so I was considering doing like lingerie, waitressing or something, but I didn't know any of the clubs at that time. So my first experience walking into the club, they explained to me what's going to happen, and they told me to stay and sit there for a bit, see how it goes. And they introduced me to the lady who would be my senior, who would be taking me around at the club and explaining to me how everything works. So I was just sitting watching her like as a customer that evening. And whenever she did go for a private dance or something, she invited me along. And none of the clients that she was with seemed to mind. So I would just sit there, watch her giving a dance. She was a little drunk that night, and that was one of my first experiences with another girl who then came on to me. We started kissing. She got very touchy. And at that point, once again, with a very sheltered family life, any homosexuality was seen as a huge sin. And I was like leader of the church group at that point and everything. But whenever I played Truth or Dare, I was the first one to jump on the, oh yeah, kiss your best friend. I'm like, oh, well, I don't mind. But it was still going to be another year or two before I actually started exploring my own sexuality. But being that excited around another girl dancing on me, seeing what the world is like. She had nothing holding her back, whether it was alcohol or not, I don't know. But just being free, being comfortable in your own body, showing off with other people who love seeing you being comfortable. It was at first exciting, maybe a little overwhelming, but overwhelming enough that I just didn't think too much about it. I just went into it. And my first night went really well, but I think everybody's first night goes well because you're new, you're fresh meat, all that kind of thing.
I can agree to that. I go to one spot in particular, and you can always see the green ones, the noobs, the ones their first time there. They are shocked at everything. Wow, lights! Wow, the floor! Wow, the setup! Wow, food! And the first dance they see, wow, someone's on stage. And could you please describe that first day you had where you were just investigating and watching? What was the mood in the room like? What was it like to see some of those outfits, see some of those bodies? What was going through your mind?
I honestly didn't think much of it at first. I think I was so turned off, and so I obviously had a lot of other stuff happen in my life. So due to some past traumatic events, I was pretty numb and shut off at that point. So nothing shocked me. But my first night working, I was lucky enough that the lady that was supposed to be the lady taking me around, she had a regular client come in who didn't mind at all that I join her. So he paid for me to sit with her. So most of my first night was me just sitting in a private room with the girl who's coaching me and her regular client, just chatting. So I wasn't in front of anybody new yet. And because it was a private room with a pole, they were like, okay, cool. Well, this is your first night. You're supposed to be getting used to being on the pole. And that made it very comfortable. So I could get on and dance, knowing that those two were in conversation. I could start getting used to taking my clothes off, knowing that they're not really watching me the first few times. So I did it once, I did it the second time, and eventually it's like, okay, cool, I've taken my clothes off a few times now. The next time that it's in front of more people, well, I've done it already, it's not that scary. So I think I had a very comfortable and very easy lead into it. Yeah, I think I was very lucky. I don't think everybody has that experience at first.
Wow, wow, wow. I see. I think as they call it, growing your gills little by little, learning how to swim. And were it mostly local dancers, or was it an international sort of crowd? I know the Eastern European crowd is quite popular.
Yeah, I started at a reasonably small-ish local club.
Okay.
Where most of the dancers were local, most of the clients were local. The only people that weren't local were the massage ladies who would come in throughout halfway in the night, literally just normal shoulder massages, nothing sensual, anything. We had, I think, one Chinese and one Thai lady.
Okay.
It's only when I went to other clubs a few years later that I saw a lot more Russian, Ukrainian, yeah, even some Brazilian girls. So.
Wow, 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 wow. Now, in terms of some of the look, because every dancer has got their own particular look and personality. So at that time when you were still new, I assume you didn't have your look just yet, and you see some of the more experienced ones and they are tatted up, pierced up, hair dyed up. What was that experience like for you, and how did you eventually find your look? Like, this is me at my sexiest.
I've played around with it for so long. I had very short hair at that point. I got pixie cut, like the whole lesbian haircut, very, very quickly. So when I was at the club, I started wearing extensions. And it looked bad. It straight up just looked bad, but I didn't really know better at that point. I wanted to keep it so far away from what I normally look like. I was wearing eye contacts. I would put makeup around my whole body to make it look like I have different curves. A full face of makeup every day, always extensions. When my hair started growing out, I started wearing different colored wigs, and they looked pretty bad as well. I eventually noticed that I look better. I couldn't fit into most of the things that everybody wears. I'm quite tall. I'm really tall. So most of the one pieces and things never really fit me. So I went for the more elegant look eventually. So corsets and skirts. And I never even got myself like proper stripper shoes because I was already so tall that it was a bit daunting for people. Um, and only when I started doing shows and started looking at the types of shows that I want to do, did I really pay more attention into the look that I want to create. And this was at the first club that I was working at. So when I left the first club, there was a lot of bad stuff that happened between me and the owner there. So I left. Um, and I wanted to look completely different. I wanted to hide away from everyone. So I went into a whole different name, whole different look to a new club. And that gave me time away from because I had a different wig as well, different makeup, different everything. And that gave me more time to really think about the small and subtle differences, how I really want to look, how I really want to present myself. And that's also when in my private life, I got closer to some family members and everything again. So I really had to focus on who knows, who doesn't know, what do I look like to the people who do know, and what do I look to the people who don't. That's also around the time that I started getting better at reading people. So I was no longer just trying to get in contact with anybody that makes you feel nice or flatters you or whatever, because that happens the whole time. Um, that was really the time that I had to think about who I was personally, who I wanted to be as a dancer. And then I explored and pushed into that even further. And then when TikTok came out, knowing that everything's then going to be online, I had to know exactly what I'm going to get dressed up as, what I'm going to look like before I start shooting a video, that I can do like a whole day of shooting before, I could do a whole day of shooting, knowing what I'm going to get dressed at as the beginning of the day. And I was still in clubs, in and out of clubs at that point. So it was like a bunch of different things that kept influencing it. And you just got to find what makes you happy at the end of the day. If you're not happy and comfortable with what you're doing, people are going to see, people are going to notice. So really find a fantasy that you want to be and then push into that, and then be happy and comfortable with yourself personally. So
Wow.
personal life is, yeah, I'm
You
babbling around now.
you covered some very, very interesting points of just how there's reality, real life, and then you are in like a fantasy world before Facebook Meta or anything like that, and how sometimes there'll be some conflict and frustration when sometimes they connect. Somebody from your family finds you in your second life or your third life, and you're like, oh, there are these other sides to me that you normally don't show to others. And in Japan, they talk about wearing a mask and tatemae and hone, and how there's certain things you don't show anyone. But in that particular environment, that other side, as you mentioned, your more liberated side, your oppressed side, the good, the bad, it kind of comes out, and you see it within the dancers and also in the customers too, where a lot of them may have a deep want to be seen as somebody generous, so the money is flowing, and they give it out and they give it out. And those who desperately want a certain type of attention, it also comes out both in the customers and in the dancers. Very, very, very interesting environment. Now, with as we just mentioned just now, of you finding your look and then eventually finding those important details that make the sales happen better. Because before, in the beginning, I'm sure as a fish trying to swim, or that's not a good one, or a deer trying to learn how to walk, you stumble through till eventually what makes the big things happen. So in your opinion and in your experiences, what were some of the small details that you changed that had the biggest effect to make more sales come?
So I stopped calling everybody sir and ma'am. That was a very big thing at first. And whenever I had Afrikaans clients, I would call them and Tannie because it seemed more respectful. And that was a mindset shift to make. Like, I am no longer, because I started when I was 18, and that's when you're just leaving high school, just getting used to the real world. True. And doing that at the same time as trying to find Yes, exactly. So me thinking like, oh, I'm rude if I call you by your name, or oh shit, how do I make sure that this person knows I respect them? In Afrikaans, you say Mantani, like ja, ek sal hierdie doen, whatever. I'm not sorry, my Afrikaans isn't very good. And in English, it would be yes, Mister, this and that, or no, ma'am, yes, or whatever, those kind of things, which to some people it turns them on. I guess it's a specific niche, but majority of your clients, it makes them feel old. And it gave away my age. It made them uncomfortable at first. I had one or two clients who liked it because I reminded them of like their daughter, or somebody like a friend's daughter, or somebody that they knew, and they had this fantasy about being with someone younger, or something like that. But majority of the people just felt old, and just getting
Mm,
out of that mindset, like, oh, I am a kid, or I'm
mm,
a waitress who now has to make sure the person's happy. I'm my own person. I'm being like, okay, cool, this is me. We're
mm.
equals at this field. I cannot put them on a specific scale
Yeah,
unless they've told me what they like. So
yeah.
I've got to treat them as equals first.
Mm, mm. And
That
also
made a
how
big
you
impact.
mentioned your frame first started of how can I make them happy, to realizing that if you are at your happiness, at your happiest, it resonates, and your niche will come to you. The ones who are looking for you are going to come to you. And I think that's such an important life thing as well. Did you, I'm sure you met a lot of experienced other dancers and others who are doing it really well. Because when you're at the start, you're watching and you're learning. Did you ever meet any sharks who were doing it at their best? Who was the best you ever saw do it in your first year? Where you were like, wow, she's got the formula down. She's cracked the code. She knows how to do it.
I actually, I didn't see things that I liked and, oh, I need to do that. I more saw things from other girls that, oh, I see her do this and it doesn't look good. So
Okay.
I avoided doing those things. So instead of seeing
Mm,
something and working towards that, I saw something and like, okay, that's what I have to
uh,
avoid.
mm.
Um,
Did you see like different
and
like
I
skill
kind of,
levels, or was it mostly similar? Because usually at most places you find the super elite high performers. You get those who are getting by, and you get those who it's not for them. They'll last like 2 weeks or a month, and they're out. Did you see like a ranking sort of like that?
definitely saw that. And it was usually the more humble girls that did
Okay.
so much better. It was the girls who come and they're expecting clients to chase them down that lasted 1 or 2 nights.
Mm,
Um, it was those who have never worked in customer service before, who take offense to every little thing that didn't
mm,
even last 1 hour.
mm,
Um, I saw a lot of girls coming in from like massage parlors or from brothels
mm,
or from office jobs, and neither of them really made it, because the girls from massage parlors or brothels, they know that, okay, cool, this guy has made a booking with me at this time, and that's when I'm going to be working. And now you're
mm.
sitting at a club waiting for people to come in, and you have to entertain. You've got to work to make
Yeah.
money first. Or you get people coming from office jobs where they are highly respected, or they
Mm,
might have been a lawyer at some point, something happened, and now they
mm.
need to make money. And they think, oh, it's going to be a quick, easy fix. I'm so learned. I can do all of these
Oh, wow.
things. And then they realize, oh, you actually have to treat people with respect as well. You have to cater to their needs.
Mm,
So they also ended up not making it.
wow. The myth is not true.
Yeah,
There's
but
no easy money in this world. Everything comes at a price.
exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. You've got to be able to put yourself down. You can't be too sensitive to anything everybody says.
True. Please tell me, how did you get through some of the insecurities I can imagine at that point? Because you have the money is not constant. You have your super good nights, your bad nights. In between, some days you feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. Other days, no one's paying attention to you. How did you
Yeah.
keep yourself centered?
It definitely helped to get into a work mindset. You can't show up and then still be yourself just with a different haircut or different
Mm,
makeup or
mm,
something. You have to look at it as work. And that's a mistake I think a lot of people make. They think they can go there, have fun, but no, you have to, it is work. You've got to think of it as work. You've got to be professional. And the work is that you are creating a fantasy. You are
mm,
creating this idea of this perfect being that this person wants to be with. You are not there as yourself, showing off yourself at all. That can't be. I was incredibly sensitive at first. I was a huge people pleaser. Everybody had to like me. If there was somebody who didn't like me, I would do everything I could to make sure that
Mm,
it does go well. It was different if a client told me like, oh, sorry, no, they prefer someone with red hair, or no,
mm,
they prefer someone who's shorter or whatever. That's
mm,
fine. Like I never took offense to that, because like I can't change that about myself. But someone who just like, oh no, it's okay, thanks. If they didn't give me an explanation, I was worried why.
mm,
And most of that hate actually came from the people that I was working with.
mm.
Um, yeah, and I was left alone within the first month, 2 months. It's because the lady that had to train me, one of her best friends just didn't like me because one of her clients was upset with me for not offering extras, because
Yep.
I didn't have sex with clients. I didn't
Mm,
do anything extra because
mm,
I was very new. I
yeah.
was still figuring out where my limits were. And if you break one limit, you'll end up breaking them all. So
Yeah.
I just stuck with dancing. He was upset with me, and he told his regular girl that, oh no, this girl told stories about you.
Yeah.
She was upset with me, and she was best friends with the lady who was supposed to train me. So suddenly I'm left alone. Within a
Yeah.
month of being at the place, nobody to help me out. Like, I don't know what to do. So I was doing everything to get into their good books again.
Wow.
Eventually, this dancer that had an issue with me left. After a few difficult nights at the club, where
Mm,
even management told me I should leave early because they don't trust this girl not to come attack me in the change room or something.
wow. Wow.
Um,
Wow.
all because one client was upset that I didn't want to do extra. But anyway,
Yeah. You said something
um,
so important as sorry to interrupt you. I feel we have to go back and really
sorry.
make that in bold and underline it a few times of learning how to set your own boundaries with the people you work with customers and clients. When did you learn the right way to set your boundaries in the beginning? Because you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. This is a life skill. There's so many things in life where you sometimes you fall into the narrative of you tell yourself, I'm this, I do this, and you get
Mm,
taken advantage of and abused and eaten up by the sharks. And also within this dance environment, not every customer is the same. If there's some customers you don't want to talk to, you don't have to. Um, when did you learn how to set boundaries? Was there like a finesse to it where you were like, um,
mm.
yeah, please tell us.
It takes time. It honestly takes time, and it takes time practicing to
Mm,
stick with your things.
mm,
If you said that, oh no, you don't want to, I don't know, if you say you don't want to wear blue underwear tonight, don't do it. Even though it's a small thing, start with small, tiny things and constantly stick with what you're sticking to.
mm,
Um, and practice sticking to what you said to yourself. Even in everyday little things, if you say, hey, I'm going to have 2 glasses of water before 9 a.m. this morning, do it. And the
mm,
more you stick to the things that you say to yourself, the easier it's going to be to stick to the bigger things. Um, and at a start, if you're a bit older and you're getting into the industry where you are more sexually open already, it's a different story. But I got in when I was quite young. So everything was still new and everything was still, okay, cool. I don't think I'm ready to have sex with someone yet. I don't think I'm ready to do any of those things, which
mm,
made it a very easy thing for me to say no to at that point.
mm,
Um, and the easiest way for me to just say no was to classify myself as only a dancer, because you get only the dancers, and you get the girls who offer extras and do more, and then you get the in between girls who won't have sex with clients, but they might do a hand job or a blow job, or oh um, they won't sleep with a guy, but they'll sleep with a girl, or no, they won't go down on a guy, but a guy can go down. Like, you have those girls who have little wishy-washy limits. Um, so it was easier for me to just classify myself as no, not at all. And I was actually chatting to a client who's like, oh, but why not just do this, just do that? Um, and it just kind of slipped out saying, oh, but if I break this limit, I don't know where I'm going to stop. And I thought about that later the night. I'm like, but that's actually true. If I say yes to something I've been saying no to for the last 2 months, even though it could be as simple as, oh, just hold my penis. If I suddenly say yes to that, um, after saying no for so long, what else am I going to start compromising on? So I forced myself not to compromise on anything. And along with knowing what your limits are, you've got to stick to what your goals are. If your goal is to work for a few months, make a certain amount of money, put it away and go on with your life, then you've got to do that. The problem is that a lot of people get into the industry and they get into a habit, and they get into this expectation of making a certain amount, and they start adjusting their lifestyle. It's like when you get a raise. Everybody thinks that, oh, I'm going to get a raise now, that extra money I'm going to put straight into savings, but it never happens. You get that raise, you use that money for something else, and you start adjusting your lifestyle.
So
And that's
true.
how people get kind of stuck. Yeah.
So
So
true.
if you know what you want to do, stick to what you want to do. And that makes it easier to stick to what your limits are. Because if you compromise your goals, if you start using that money that you said you were going to save, things are going to get harder. People are, because waves, people, you're going to get more desperate for money at some point because now you've adjusted to this specific lifestyle. And that desperation causes you to then maybe relook at your own values and your own things and own limits. So it's just an across the board thing with everything. Stick to what you said to yourself at first.
True. You mentioned you started when you were 18, and these are your formative years. You're still finding yourself. And in the beginning, your goal is, I just need to make money. I don't know what I want to do with it, but I just need to have money. Money is essential to live. As you got into your second year, when did you eventually develop a goal of what you wanted to do with what you were doing? Because everyone's aware of that clock of, I can only do this job for so long. Where am I going? Within your second year, were you still just about, let me have fun, make money, or were you establishing now this goal?
So originally, like I said, I wasn't sure what it was I was applying for at first. Only when I showed up and I saw it was a strip club that I realized, because I was actually looking for a more permanent, higher paying job at that point. Because I was waitressing throughout high school. I was studying at that point as well. I started studying the same year I started stripping. So I was looking for something part-time and regular, knowing that I just want to have a little bit of money to get me through the months. And within that first year, actually, the paychecks were good enough that I could go back into the passions that I had. I've always liked keeping fit. I've always liked traveling. So I had this goal to save up enough to eventually travel, to first finish my studies. My first goal was to finish my studies and just do this to kind of keep me through it. But yeah, I don't know if you know about the strikes that happened in South Africa in 2016.
Please elaborate. Please tell us.
So there was the universities, there was a fees must fall striking that happened. And that's during the time that I took a whole semester off because of that. It was a whole problem, a whole issue. So within that time, I had to start looking for other things to do. And that's where I had to rethink and reevaluate everything, because now what? I'm not studying. So now I'm not trying to support myself through my studies. What's going on now? So I started performing outside of clubs as well, more because I started doing shows at the club where I was, and I had people requesting me for other venues to come and do regular shows there. And then I thought, you know what? Hey, I've always wanted to travel. I've always wanted to teach, because I was doing a teaching thing at that time anyway, so I had a little bit of teaching experience. So I thought, why not teach the girls at different strip clubs? Because I have some dance experience. I've applied it to what I've been doing. In the first year, I started going for pole dancing classes. And at that point, I already asked the pole dancing teachers I had, like, what I had to do in order to become a pole dance teacher one day. But I wasn't really sure where I want to go with that. So I kept stripping for a little bit. I got busier with my own gigs. And that's where I had some issues with that current club I was at. I started at a new club that was a lot harder, a lot more competitive, a lot more pushy from clients, so much worse mentally. But that's where I had a set goal of, I want to save this amount. And if I've saved up this amount, I'm going to put so much in fixed savings, so much into my business, so much for myself to carry me through all of those things. And that was a set goal. And I was so close. I was so close to that goal.
Wow. It's so good that you started off at a smaller local place before you moved on to, a more competitive environment where you find bigger personalities, bigger customers, bigger dancers, bigger competition, and you yourself also grow. With you getting more serious in pole, was there a big like fitness benefit, and did it help the mental health as well? At least I find from having a rough day, if the workout goes well, at least the workout went well.
I do agree. I do think that working out calms you a little bit. There was a good fitness aspect to it, but I've always tried keeping quite fit. I like being able to move and do things. And I even trained with some really interesting people to keep my body in shape. A lot of my shows, I do some crazy flexible things because I'm trained with some really flexible people that I've trained with by now. And it's all just more for fun for myself to keep it up and going. I also, just a little bit on the side, because I started streaming at one point, and I would do like these crazy yoga things in underwear, basically. So then I would stretch, and then people would pay to watch. So it's nothing overly sexual, but it's
the type of stuff you won't see anywhere else.
Exactly.
I think on that segue, I have to mention to our viewers, if you would like to book Shonée for any shows, TX Rated, the company is out. I'm going to put links down below. And from there, if you have any questions, if you would like to, draw some questions from her 7 years of experience, please book a consultation. She is the one to speak to. So I have to plug that in a few times.
Thank you.
When you moved on to this bigger venue, more competitive environment, so now you're seeing more international people, what were some of the little things that you saw that were kind of like mind-blowing, where you're like, wow, I didn't any techniques, any conversationalists we have to be watching out for? What were?
So I actually I had an issue with the previous club, which is why I left, and I just wanted to hide away. I didn't want anyone to know. This is after I've done a few interviews for Backstory and for TLC. TLC, the show was called Thunderbear's Ball. It was a talk show that I was on. So there was already a few people who'd seen me in the industry, and I just wanted to hide away because I was no longer at that club. My views have changed because I thought I was good friends with this specific owner, and it crushed me a little bit. And it was in the same year that some of my close friends that I was always trying to people please just completely backstabbed me. So I had to change my whole view on who was my friends and who's really close to me.
Can't mix friends, family, and money. They don't mix. Can't mix friends, family, and water. Your money is your money. Your friends are your friends. To keep them separate.
Agreed. So going into this new club, I wanted to hide away. I wasn't even sure if I was ready to go to the new club, but I started dating this girl that I was working with, and she was going to the new club. We were going to start together. We were going to be there making money together, because I mean, a lesbian show is always a good thing. Great.
That sisterhood and keeping people together. Yeah. I almost find women were built to work together. I think it's why a lot of women have very high emotional intelligence. I think mentally, a lot of women are more social people. Being a loner is a bit more dangerous when you're a lady, in my opinion.
I'm a little bit of a loner, which is why I attached to someone so quickly, and then I wanted to work with. She worked with me for one shift, and then she moved away. Then I was like, I'm already employed at this new place. I can't just leave now, and now I am completely alone.
Those are due.
Yeah, I had to get ready for all these bigger personalities, but I wasn't ready for it yet. There was another girl who was very sweet. She's like, hey, come with me. I'll show you around. She always shows the new girls around. Because I still hadn't been assigned someone to show me around this new club yet. And I went on a booking with her, with actually one of our country's really big rugby players.
Oh, wow.
And that night was terrible. That was...
Really?
It was horrible. Yes. I don't drink. I stopped drinking.
But when you first started, it was maybe just to get the night going, get the confidence up, and then you realize doing it daily is not how to do it.
I had an oddly high tolerance, so I never got to that buzzed level. The reason I stopped drinking is because I ended up going to the hospital for a lot of aches and pains regularly in my body, and they're like, "Oh, your blood is overly acidic because you're drinking a
Too much.
ridiculous amount." I'm like,
Oh,
I
no.
did not notice because my body didn't feel the effects of it at all.
What is your drink of choice though? Because every lady's got their drink. Some are vodka Red Bull, others are Jägermeister, others are tequila, because they're like, no, you don't get drunk, you just get high. And it's like everything in life comes at a cost.
Now I prefer sweet things,
Okay.
but I have a high tolerance for most things, so I would generally drink whatever the table's ordered so that I
Okay.
can like fit in. And that's also why I stopped drinking, to firstly get my body back and healthy, but also just to get used to saying no to people. If I
Okay.
don't want to drink something that they have, I
Mm.
just say no.
Were
So
you
I didn't
mixing
drink
though?
on the
That's deadly. If you're mixing shots and beers,
oh
that's
definitely.
deadly. Deadly, deadly, deadly. Wow.
Yeah. But like I said, I didn't know. I had a very weird tolerance to
Okay.
alcohol. Apparently, it's some sort of enzyme that my body
Mm.
does have or doesn't have, or something that makes my digestion a bit. I don't know.
Mm.
Um,
And also to keep yourself
but
mentally
anyway,
sharp so you can, make the money, Mm.
exactly. So on this specific booking, this girl was drinking, and they spiked the drinks, and they actually wanted to watch me drink. So I put the cup, and I was like pretending to drink. But because I didn't drink alcohol at that point, I didn't. This girl was knocked out. She got spiked. I wanted to leave by the time I had to leave. I didn't know this girl from anywhere, and she kept telling me, "Oh no, it's fine. It's a regular client. They'll know to take care of her." So I trusted her. I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'm going to leave you here," because she said she knows them. They still had to pay me at that point,
So wait,
and
they didn't
it was
pay before? You trusted them to pay after?
no. This is the annoyance of this specific club, because they don't force the guys to pay up front. It's up to us to make sure. And this girl was like, "Listen, these guys always pay. It's regular. Please come with me." I'm like,
Mm.
"Okay, fine. Why not? I trust you. It's my first night. I'm not sure how you do things yet, and nothing extra is going to happen. It seems like it's a nice just get out of the place, go have a few drinks somewhere else. If I don't get paid for that, it's not like it's a big problem. It's uncomfortable because I could have made money at the club, but I mean, let me just trust this girl and try it."
That's a
So
fatal
I
life
went with her.
mistake. Always get your money first. Fatal life mistake. Wow.
Definitely. I did push them to eventually pay me, which they did. But the next morning, or then the next shift that I had, this girl was furious. Um, she woke up way too late. Apparently, she had to get home to her kids or something. I didn't even know about it.
Wow.
But these rugby players for our international team stole money out of her purse, which they paid me with, and kept the rest for themselves. So she was down 10,500 rand at that night. So
Unbelievable,
uh,
eh?
yeah, that was my first big mistake. That girl and I had issues for days. Um, we did end up working out an agreement, because I mean, it's money that she got stolen from. Well, money was stolen from her. I made sure that I got paid. I didn't know that they stole it, but we did work out an agreement between the two of us, and we got closer. And I ended up falling for this girl,
Wow.
only to find out that her being around people or being so lovey is just for the clients. There was no real interest. And that's when I realized I can't keep doing this. I can't keep falling for my coworkers. I need to, I know now, I could see then that, okay, this is how they are in front of the clients, and how they act separately is completely different. So I am no longer going to have anything personal on the floor at all. As much as I'm in a work mindset, when I'm with clients, I cannot afford to have a personal mindset with them when I'm with coworkers either, because they are work the whole time. And
Yeah.
that's what really pushed me and got me ready to just, it's just me. It's just yourself. You
Mm.
can't really trust anyone else. You can't really, yeah, that was, I think, one of the turning points for me as
That's an
well.
important life thing, actually developing that work mask and realizing this is my work personality, does not affect the real me. And you can now alter and make that work personality efficient at making money. So I think that just comes with maturity. And, again, book her for a consultation. The 7 years of experience, you can get that in one, one call and really learn a lot. Now, developing your dream of now club hopping. So you made the first move to a bigger club, and you sort of saw that transition. When did you now make it a thing that move here, move there, move there. When did you also develop like a method to know it's now time to move, time to move?
I'm still terrible at picking up when I need to move, because I do have a habit of getting comfortable. But when it comes to traveling internationally to club hop, you at least have your visa that
Okay.
keeps you in check a little bit.
Mm.
And all you need is like one weekend away from the work environment to just realign yourself and like, okay,
Mm.
this is my actual life. This is what I want to be doing. Obviously, so at this bigger club that I was at, they had a lot of international girls that I would sometimes see and sometimes not. And from them, I heard stories about other girls club hopping, which is where I got the idea from. And why I was thinking, hey, maybe I should do this. So I tried applying to a few international, a few clubs in different countries at that point, but I don't think I approached it the right way. Since
Yeah.
then, I've gotten in contact with a lot more people who have been club hopping around the world.
What is like the
So I think
better
I'm a
way
lot
to
more
approach, in your opinion, now that you've had more experience? What is a winning approach?
to get in contact with someone in the country that you're going to first. Don't
Okay.
apply to the club directly. Make friends with someone who is stripping at a specific country already,
Mm.
or find someone who does regularly club up. They're the ones who can vouch for you. They're the ones who can give you the person's contact details to get into directly. They're the people that sometimes you're just going to have to trust it. You're going to have to buy your ticket, go to the country, and push for it. There's a lot of, it's not legal in every country
Yeah.
to just show up and work, but a lot of strip clubs, all the illegal stuff happen inside them. Prostitution is not legal in South Africa, but I'm not going to name which, but they happen in majority of the clubs. Working without a worker's visa in some countries aren't legal, but majority of strip clubs have a way to work around it. But they're not going to help you online. You need to be there. They need to see that you're serious. You need to show up there first. But that is a massive, massive risk to take.
Wow.
So
Heed the warnings.
because
Book a consultation. TX rated. Know what you're in for, and I couldn't agree more. And a previous episode I did with Miss Victoria Quinn, she mentioned how you have to have a real idea of the money you're going to make beforehand, because you can go there thinking that all clubs earn the same. But for example, she mentioned a place in Sweden where the dancers only make 10% of what the client pays. So you're paying very high club fees, clients are going crazy, and you get only 10% of that. There's some places that are full service, others are not. And you need to know what you're prepared to do and what you are not prepared to do. And don't find out on the day. Actually, know what you're in for. I couldn't agree more. I almost have to reiterate it a few more times. We've had an incredible conversation, and I really want to almost end off on the last particular note. You were maintaining relationships while dancing. Quite difficult just to initiate and maintain. If I may ask, how did you keep a relationship going? Because I'm the type of person, if I speak to someone and there's energy and a connection, I lose interest in everything else and I become hyper focused on them. And if you're the type of personality like that, it's difficult to meet 50s, hundreds, thousands of different people a night, because my mind is still on the last person I met the other time. From a lot of the dancers I sort of met, there's almost like a goldfish sort of memory. They meet me again and they're like, I think I know him, but I don't quite remember what it is we talked about. And how did you maintain a relationship in such an environment? Was it always just easier to date other dancers, or?
No, I'm quite lucky when it comes to that because I'm polyamorous. So I've actually had a relationship outside of the clubs as well. When I started stripping, I was in relationship with the guy for almost 3 years already. And we were in a polyamorous relationship with one of the dancers and her boyfriend,
And he
which
was all
worked for
right with
us.
it when you broke the news to him? You're like, look, I'm gonna get into dancing now. What was his reaction?
I called him when I went for the interview and I'm like, hey, I got a job at this place. He's like, what, you're gonna be a stripper? I'm like, are you upset? He's like, no, I'm just asleep. Wait, we'll talk tomorrow.
Wow.
So I took and he's like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like he was all very supportive. He was interested. He was keen in it. keen for it. Only after we broke up did he come across as not really supportive. He's like, oh yeah, but you're still just a stripper, you're still just this and that. So I don't know if it was because we broke up or if it's because that's how he always felt about it and now he wasn't obligated to make it feel better. And then it's not a good idea at all, but I have gotten in relationships with clients before.
What magic thing did they
And
say? What a magic amount of money did they throw down? Did they make a heart shape with like money? And they were like, yeah, it's meant to be.
that's the problem. If you're getting into that's really the difficult part is the moment a client falls for you, you know you're not going to make money off of them anymore. It doesn't matter where it leads. If a client seriously falls for you, they're going to come back a few more times and spend extra time with you, hoping to see anything more. But the moment they realize and the moment it hits them that, oh shit, this is just a fantasy, they no longer pay for anything because it's like, well, nothing's going to come of it. They feel heartbroken, or they start expecting things for free. They start expecting you to see them regularly without charging extra because they're expecting you to feel the same way. And we cannot then, it's part of our job to maintain that fantasy. We can't tell them, just pause a little, like, hold on, you know, this is just faking. I don't really feel this way. I don't really have these views and opinions on things. I'm saying this because this is what you like. You're paying for this fantasy. You've got to maintain that, like, oh no, this is how I think. Yeah, I don't care if you're this and that type of person, but yeah, I'm the same, whatever. And that awakening for them is then, it either breaks their heart or they just get rude. So figuring that out took a few trial and errors where I've met up once or twice with clients and noticed like this is not, they never like the real you. They never like the person, but they have this idea and fantasy of you. So I think after my third time of meeting up with someone from a club, I'm like, okay, there is no way I'm meeting up with anybody outside unless they are paying to meet up. And even then it will still be a fantasy meetup, basically. So the one or two clients that I did end up seeing outside that became relationships was actually not the people with excessive amounts of money. They were the people that
you click with. The connection is there, that you're type already.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, people are people.
True, very true. Yeah, I had a very bad relationship, and then I got a very good relationship. I'm actually in a relationship right now with someone that I did meet at a club, who was actually the best friend of one of my biggest spenders.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was very scary at first because if I start seeing this person, what is their friend going to start expecting me to see them for free? Am I going to come out? What's the relationship going to be like? It was scary, and you've got to be 100% clear about what your boundaries are as work and as not. And because I keep such a very strict difference between work and personal mindset, you need to know ahead of time who you're dealing with. Like, I need to know, are you seeing me as Shonée, who is,
or somebody else? Yeah,
are you seeing me like this and you're going to be paying for my time then? Or are you coming to visit me for my own things where I might be sitting at home watching anime instead? So that's not the cool, fun, always sexy person. That's the, hey, I'm sitting at home doing this and that. Who are you coming to see? Are you going to be respectful of both? Whichever it is you decide. If you're seeing someone, you're going to have to pay for the time. If you're not, then... So that was...
wow.
Yeah.
That's life and maturity, where you can still have this very emotionally taxing job, but still get yourself filled emotionally. Because at the end of the day, we're human beings. We're meant to connect and we're meant to live and love and have everything, and realize that money alone can't make you happy. That's a harsh lesson a lot of people learn. I want to thank you so much for your time. We've had an incredible conversation, and we could have gone on the whole day, but we know restraint, especially having worked in clubs. We know your restraint. No when is enough, know when to leave the party. And a massive thank you for your time. Wishing you continued adventures. Is there any last note you would like to end on?
If you need to take something to do this job, you shouldn't be doing this job.
Wow.
Got to make the decision and stick to it. Yeah.
If you heard nothing but that, just that. Just that alone would be incredible. Thank you, Sean. I'm going to put all your links down below, and more amazing episodes coming soon on this podcast. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate every view, every like, every subscription. And who knows, you might just meet me somewhere out there in the world. Take care.